Our draft profiles continue with who the Seahawks could take at pick number 16 or just with their first pick off the board. So let's get to it. At pick number 16 in the first round, the Seahawks select UCLA defensive lineman Laiatu Latu. Now, Bump, before I throw to you, let me let people know that he is not projected to be the first defensive player off the board, all right? That is going to be maybe someone like Jared Verse, who's an edge rusher. Maybe Dallas Turner, projected to go at number 8 to Atlanta. But Booger McFarland this morning had this to say.
Laiatu Latu from UCLA. And I know
he was asked who the best defensive player is.
About the medical, and I'm sure you guys know about that. Medically retired, the neck, has the surgery, comes back, has played the last 2 years at UCLA. But if you're asking me that health withstanding, a guy that's going to make the biggest impact in the league, I think it's him, because I think he's NFL ready, meaning he understands pass rush, understands leverage, angles, how to use his hands. He's got some moves. He's not just an athlete running around a corner. I think his production is there. If you go back and look at his production at UCLA the last 2 years, and the tape stands out.
Now, help us understand this. Laiatu Latu, on both these mocks that I'm looking at, both are by CBS sports reporters, is going in the 20s. And yet Booger McFarland says he's the best defensive player in the draft. Where's the gap there?
I
mean, is he?
Preference and projections. What do you think each team needs, right? Because the team need is important when you talk about where guys are going to go. Booger McFarland, I know a lot of people don't agree with some of his analysis, but he did play in the trenches for LSU. Look at the man's fingers. You know, dang well he played in the trenches. Right, them fingers are all mangled up.
They're going all kinds of directions.
He knows.
Not one pointing.
No. He knows what he's looking at. You know, and I agree with him. I think Laiatu Latu may be the best defensive player in this draft. I think the best defensive player in the draft should come from the box. I think outside you get athletic guys, hip speed, and all that stuff. But we're talking about just defense, raw ability. I always look in the box, and I think Laiatu Latu should be in that conversation. 6'5", 259 pounds. Let's get the knockout the way off top. 2020, he had that neck injury while he was at UW. He was forced to medically retire. He goes wherever he goes. They say, look, you're fine. Get up in there and do your thing. That's what he does. His sophomore year, he had 11 sacks at UCLA. He was a comeback player of the year. He also had 12.5 sacks and 10.5 sacks his last year. When you turn on the film and you look at Latu, you're going to see him in the two-point stance most of the time. Two-point means his hand's not in the ground. He's standing up looking like a receiver. He is best out of the two-point stance. He can work out of the three-point. The reason why he is best out of the two-point stance is because he has a good first step and he has great body control. That's the first thing I look at when I'm looking to evaluate athletes. One, can he control his body? We know what he's trying to do. Can he do it efficiently? And he is extremely efficient. He's not going to wow you with raw athleticism. He's not jumping over offensive linemen, running down running backs on the back and then grabbing them one hand and pulling them down to the ground. No, he doesn't do that. But he does all of that stuff efficiently. He does run down the running back on the backside of the plays. He does get to the quarterback. He's good with his hands. He's so good with his hands and his arms. I had to check and see what his wingspan was. And he's not even graded really high when it comes to his wingspan. But he's so efficient. He understands, man, I cannot let that offensive lineman get his body into my body. They're going to win that. What do all my big boys, right? We used to come home from a long night and in the Palouse, and we get to the house, and boys will be boys, and we start wrestling, right? What do the big boys want to do? They just want to grab you. You never been in wrestling matches.
Yeah, that's right.
That's what me and my girlfriends do not come home from the bar and start wrestling.
You play floor is lava, and you break your elbow, dislocate your elbow.
First of all, no. That was an icebreaker activity during a summer class in college. When me and my girls would come home from the bar in college, we would watch TV, order pizza, and fall asleep.
Well, Curtis, you understand.
I caught that vibe.
That's weird.
Boys will be boys. Someone wants to challenge, we start wrestling.
First guy takes his shirt off. He's getting all sweaty.
Yeah, this is what we do. This is what we did. That's what offensive line want to do. They want to wrestle you. They want to get you in their grasp. And he has arms ain't very long, but he understands I need to keep him away from me.
By the way, it's like 40 degrees outside when we're all doing this.
Yeah,
it's cold.
It's cold. He's good at setting the edge. He understands, like, I could beat this tackle inside and try to make a play in the backfield. But if I do that, I compromise the integrity of this whole defense. Good at setting the edge and just doing his job. Also, instincts are great. I saw him sniff out several screens. I believe it was against Utah. They try to send him to the right side. He sees the running back leaking out the backside. He understands, like, look, man, trust my eyes and what I'm seeing. They're taking me this way for a reason. He gets after the quarterback. He ran a 4.6 6'4", 40. His closing speed is deceptive. You watch him, and it doesn't seem like he's moving really fast, but because he has that quick burst and those long strides, he closes the gap between himself and the running back fairly quickly. I like what he brings to the table, man. He has an engine, a motor that he plays with. When I watched his pro day, he was the most efficient defensive lineman I've seen in a while. When I think about technicians and being efficient, I always think about receivers and DBs and maybe some linebackers, right? Because I think you can really show your technique. When you get into the closer you get to the line of scrimmage, the more raw and just more force that you use. With him, he uses that force, but he's so smart when he decides to slip, when he decides to swim, when he gets in the chest of a tackle, then he releases them and gets to the running back. He has a plan every single play. So he's the first defensive lineman in a while where I go, he's a true technician. Everyone has to have technique. But because he's not the biggest, fastest, or strongest, he has to rely on the technique. I like this kid. Whoever grabs him is going to be lucky.
Okay, so last minute and a half, 2 minutes here thinking about Seattle's needs. We know that they need offensive linemen. They need inside linebackers. You addressed your defensive line in free agency this year and last year, bringing in Dre Jones. You've got some developmental pieces there, so it's not necessarily your biggest need. How does it help the Seahawks?
It just gives you depth. And Derek Hall hasn't been who they expected him to be yet. He's still young. Last year, he was a rookie, but there's a reason why he wasn't on the field consistently. There's something he's not doing or that Clint Hurton in the gang did not like about him. Now, he's going to have a new opportunity here with Dirty as defensive coordinator. So it brings you depth, and I think it brings you a guy right now who is capable of playing 65 to 70% of the snaps. I think it'd be great for competition, too. You draft a guy like Laiatu Latu, Derek Hall, Boya Mafe, like, man, this is my spot. The competition breeds greatness. So depth and just – man, the ability to get after the quarterback. Imagine him with DT, Boya Mafe, Uchenna, throw Derek in there.
Yeah.
I really like the edge.
All right, Laiatu Latu was our pick at number 16 for the Seahawks for the purposes of this draft profile.